for being here. Thank you to the listeners for tuning into the Nick and Mal Show. Let's go.
Boom, guys, thank you for tuning in to this cool little show we have. It's Nick and Mal from the Nick and Mal Show. And we actually just came up with this name. It's going to be called the 48 Laws of Power Breakdown, where we break down this book right here, the 48 Laws of Power. And I just learned something crazy. Me and Malcolm just learned this together. Apparently there are 52 weeks in a year. So I'm thinking, okay, 48 laws. There are 12 months in a year, 4 weeks in a month. So 4 by 12 would give you the amount of weeks in a year.
Yep.
That comes out to 48. Apparently it's 52. We need to figure that out. Hey, conspiracy theorists, we need to figure out what's going on. We need to figure out what's going on with y'all motherfuckers that's creating the
calendar.
The calendar. And I'm sorry for cursing. We're going to try not to curse on this at all. Because this is for the people. This is for the kids. I want you guys to really break down the information from this book and use it in your life. 2020 was a crazy year, right? And it snatched a lot of power from us. Mm-hmm. So now we got to snatch your power back in 2021. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? You listen to Nick and Mal break down the 48 Laws of Power. Come on, I know you like that. I know you like that. So we're going to be breaking down the laws in no particular order. There are 48 laws. Me and Malcolm are going to go back and forth in choosing a law. And however we get to it, man. We're going to choose it based on what's pertinent in our life. And the first law that we're going to break down is very, it's symbolic of that. For me personally, and I know that you recognize with it too. So the first law is going to be law number
23.
And what is the name of that law, Mal?
Concentrate your focus.
Concentrate your forces.
Your forces.
Law number 23, concentrate your forces. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
I can start it off. So in Law 23, the first part that they have is called the transgression of the law. And when I read the transgression of the law, I liked it because it basically explained the purpose of the law and it gave you a simple meaning of the law. As we know in this book, it's a lot of war that goes on, and it's a lot of old times. Old war with unique names that you don't know how to pronounce. King this person, Caesar this person.
It's very historical. And I think the guy who wrote it wrote The Art of Seduction.
Yeah.
Is that the same person who wrote The Art of War? No,
No, definitely not.
That dude's been dead for 1,000 years.
I believe that was an Asian gentleman that wrote The Art of War.
I forgot his name.
Yeah.
But I definitely should know that. But go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a lot of history in this book. And with the transgression of the law, of Law 23, it breaks it down to a simpler form of two animals. So the two animals are a goose and a horse. And what I love is how they started off was...
Wait, hold on. Do we have the same book?
Yeah.
I ain't read nothing about no goose and no horse. Come on. I'm excited to hear this.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm going to tell you what my transgression was after, too.
Yes.
And we're going to try to make this within 15, 20 minutes. Short and digestible for you guys, but go ahead.
Yeah, so... it has the goose and the horse, right? And the goose is praising himself like, I can walk on land, I could swim, I can fly, I can run, right? And the horse is like, oh man, that's great that you could do all these things, but you're not excellent in one thing. You're not excellent. You can't fly like the sparrow. You can't swim like the fish. And that was important because if we look at our lives now, what we are, what we could see, what we could do now with our lives because of technology, we can easily become the goose instead of being excellent in one thing. So a perfect example would that be, I could take my situation. When you're in college, I went to school for business. So every time you see something business, you automatically think you need to do it. You could do it right then and there. Instead of you could just slow down and focus on one thing. And I'm blessed for this opportunity. As soon as I got out of college, I tried to create a business opportunity for myself. I had stuff with friends, and now I'm rolling with the Nick and Mal Show. So I have retained my focus on the Nick and Mal Show, and hopefully allow that to obtain to concentrate my focus on other things.
Honestly, that I swear to God, that example was not in the book I have. After we're done, we're gonna compare books. But I was watching a video and someone did mention the goose and the horse, right?
Yeah.
And there was like, what do they call it? Good at many things, master at none.
Yeah.
Is that what the saying is?
Yes.
And you look at a goose. A goose can fly, but it can't fly like a dove, right? And it can walk, but it can't walk as graceful as a horse, or can't run as graceful as a horse. And that is so, honestly, like that's a big key. So for me personally, I want to draw it back to myself. And the transgression that they actually used in my book was a king back in China in probably, I think, like in the 1500s. They were becoming like a big player in like the Chinese kingdomhood. I don't know how to refer to it. And he got a little greedy, and he started attacking a bunch of neighboring kingdoms. And what happened was he left his guard open to his kingdom being invaded because he was dispersing all of his forces, right? I think the book says excellence is a measure of intensity, not extensity.
Yeah.
You're going to be strong not by how many things you have your hands in and just being in a lot of different pots, but if you have one or two pots and you're really entrenched in it, that's where your strength and your power comes from. And a little story about me. Before I started doing this podcast, or while doing this podcast, my goal was to go to nursing school. And it kind of took a backseat with the pandemic and stuff, and I was kind of contemplating going or whatever. And I started the podcast, and it became my love, right? It became my love, and I'm like, fuck, this is what I want to do. And then I had to start thinking like, okay, now I have to buckle down. I have to be realistic. What am I going to do for life? Like, right? Because the podcast, I can't put all my eggs in this basket to say, okay, this is what it's going to be, or go into like the entertainment world. Like, Nick, what are you doing? Go to school. Mm-hmm. So I started back taking a few classes for nursing school, applied, got accepted, and was set to start in January. And then something really weird happened. I was doing the podcast, which is my number one focus. Like, I'm sorry, nothing could shake me off of the podcast. This is my number one focus, my number one love. And now I'm doing the nursing school, and I just started becoming like really indecisive, and everything was foggy, and I was just, it was crazy, bro. I was in a weird place. I felt like I was doing so much, but at the same time I was doing nothing. And one day I'm in my room and I'm flipping through the book like, I need to read more. And I swear to God, I just opened a page and it comes on to concentrate your forces. I read the chapter and instantly decided I'm not going to nursing school anymore. Because I got my hand in too much shit, bro. I got my hand in too much shit. And I swear to God, ever since I made that decision, I've talked about it here before. I wanted to go to school to kind of please my mom, right? I told her about it. She was weirdly okay with the decision. She was like, yeah, do what you want to do. I'm not stressing over you anymore. She made a joke. She's like, I've been stressing over you for the past 23 years. I'm about to focus on myself now. And I'm like, wow, burden off of my back. I love nursing. I swear to God, I wanted to be a nurse, but I found podcasting. This is what I want to do now. And I've started to concentrate my forces with that. And bro, honestly, I feel it. I feel like, okay, I'm on the path to greatness right now. Because as the book said, it's not about extensity. It's not about how many different pots you have your hands in. It's about intensity. How can you be intense in one thing? And you know better than as much as I do. When it comes to the podcast, we're very intense. And I mean, we have to fight. Like, we have so many ideas, bro. We'll be having to low-key fight it off and check ourselves. Because it's like, it's so much shit we want to do.
It's a lot. And then we realize you got to take it day by day. You really, when I tell Nick this, when you're in it, you're in it. You know what I'm saying? Shit really come to you. It's not you. You are going after it, but once you're in it, you in it. Things start coming your way, and then you just have to react off of that.
Absolutely. Another thing that and we're talking about intelligence, right? I've always held intelligence at a very high regard. And I always, if nothing, bro, like if I couldn't be rich or anything like that, I would much rather just be intelligent than rich. I would love to be rich and intelligent, but if I had to choose one, I would much rather be intelligent. Because I think intelligence is the key to power. Not to be corny, but it's the 48 laws of power. Intelligence is something to key on. And doing the podcast, I've always looked at dudes like Joe Rogan, Charlemagne the God, and even Andrew Schultz. And I would look at these guys, I'm like, fuck, these guys are so smart. They're so intelligent, right? And through studying them and breaking it down to the science, I realized one thing. And I think I told you this a few weeks ago. It seems like they know a lot about, like a little about everything. But when you really break down what they do, bro, these guys seem and they come off as intelligent because they're really intense in their knowledge in certain fields. Like, for example, Joe Rogan, when it comes to MMA, when it comes to stand-up comedy, and when it comes to conversation, like that's a skill he has. He's really like deeply intensively entrenched in those things. Charlemagne, whether it be politics, whether it be his view on the world. Like anyone that listens to Andrew Schultz, they know he's a freaking cultural genius. And those little things are going to make you intelligent. Sure, you're going to have a little bit of knowledge on other things, but having those key bases are what is going to make you great. Mm-hmm. And everything else is just icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. But focus on making the cake first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, make the cake first before you go buy icing. And I think this is what this book tells you. This chapter tells you.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for it.
Yeah, this is a great one. Hold on, we got some more things to cover. How long have we been doing this? You think?
A few minutes, like 10 so far. 10.
Okay. So one of the I have a few quotes here from the book that I just want to call out. Yeah, ambition needs to be checked, as we just said. When you, as Guala said, once you're in it, you're in it. If you're a creative, if you're a businessman, whatever it may be, a lot of ideas come to you. Mm-hmm. You can't act on all of them. And you got to have a system. You got to have the self-discipline to say, I'm going to have to put this off for a year or whatever it may be. And once again, remain intense in my focus. And don't, you know what I mean? Don't try to be all over the place. Like, for example, like reading books. And it's so crazy, bro. The reason why I started reading this book like this is because I'm like, yo, when you just read a book, you really don't retain shit. You don't retain any information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading the 48 Laws of Power by Laws. Because they could stand on their own. Mm-hmm. Their laws, it's lessons in there to be taught. And they could stand on their own. And it's crazy that this is the first law I came to, bro. It was like God. It was like God saying, that is where you need to be. And I don't know. Once again, your ambition needs to be checked. Don't let your ambitions run wild. Let them run wild, but you can't act on everything. And if you try to act on everything, just like the king that they talked about, who was trying to overtake every kingdom, certain parts of your kingdom is going to be left bare if you put all your energy and forces to a bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. And you're inevitably going to fall. Mm-hmm. I think the book says whatever bloats and gets big out of proportion is going to fall like a fucking rock.
You know what they said in Tax-Free Wealth? Shout out to the Books for Life. Make sure you check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But a big saying that they have is pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Pigs get fat, hogs. That's slaughtered. Exactly what it is. Don't become fat because you are going to get slaughtered. And the what do they call it? The slaughter man? What do they call the dude that does the slaughtering?
The butcher, right?
The butcher is going to be you. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the life. It's going to be Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. Because, as I said, bro, anything that bloats out of proportion is going to fall. It's hard to keep yourself in check. And I'm not saying this from a position of I have it figured out. I be doing it every day. Me and you get on FaceTime calls and I tell you 100 ideas every day. Yeah. Like, yo, man, I'm about to do this now. We about to do this. Like, I'm about to, like, Nick, I be having to talk, like, bro, you need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah. And here's my problem with you, too, because when I was shout out to Earn Your Leisure, but Daryl Freeman, he was like, yo, there's no idea that's too small. So me hearing that, I go, okay, I know how Nick is, but we can't be doing too much. You understand what I'm saying? We don't do too little. We just can't be doing too much because we lose focus on everything and you don't advance anything. You're just spreading yourself out thin instead of moving forward. So when you spread yourself wide, you're not going anywhere, right? So when Darryl Freeman has said that, okay, whatever Nick says, we're gonna roll with, right? I'm not gonna downplay it because it's a great idea to have. And shout out to Tyree. When we had Tyree to show, the great thing he told me, he goes, once it's in the air, it's in the air. Shout out to VD too. He said, once it's said, it's done.
Yes.
So it's okay for people to have all these ideas, but just jot them down. And eventually you'll get back to them. It doesn't have to be right now, but you'll get back to them. But concentrate on what you have, what's on your plate first. You understand what I'm saying? You cut yourself thin, you're getting wider, right? And what happens when people that get wider? Hogs get slaughtered.
Hogs get fucking slaughtered. And I think that's one thing we're starting to do a good job of is placing things in order of importance, right? So 100 ideas, we're going to have 10 at the top, and over the next month, we about to bang that out, right? This is a key one, especially in the time we are today. The quote says, the mind must not wander from goal to goal or be distracted by success from a sense of purpose and proportion. Number one, success can be a freaking killer. We're going to talk about this in the podcast right after this. Young Thug was saying, he's like, yo, when you get rich and successful, it's hard to listen to other people because when you're broke and you have nothing, it's very easy to relate and take in information. And I think success can be a killer for people who don't know how to understand it. And we all don't know how to understand success, but some of us have principles that we live by that makes it a little bit easier. And I say that to say this. When you do start becoming successful, when we start becoming successful, we need to remember, still don't do too much. Keep it basic. And that's why, yo, bro, I swear to God, I don't want to be rich anytime soon. I don't want to be super successful anytime soon because I want to work on my habits. I want to make sure my habits are so entrenched in me. No matter what comes after, it's a fucking habit, right? For example, coronavirus comes and everyone's accustomed to going to the gym, right? But they don't really correlate working out with just being fit. They correlate working out with being at the gym. Then the gym's closed down and there's no more fitness. Everyone gains a bunch of weight. Why? Because the habit of fitness just being a thing as opposed to just being a habit of going to the gym was lost. And I guess what I mean when I say that is make sure your habits are well-rounded so no matter what is thrown at you, you're grounded. You're a grounded individual.
I like that you said that because a lot of people want the success, money, fame at a very young age, but they don't have the right pieces around them. They don't have the right habits to keep it going. And that's why part of it doesn't happen. And I mean, in life, some people grow, some people don't. They stay the same. So if you're allowed to grow and truly understand yourself as you get older, that's just going to keep the successfulness longer.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. And I think we talked about this on one of our interviews with Piff Marty. You guys should check it out too. That was a great interview. He was like, bro, I'm kind of happy I'm not famous yet, right? He kind of said the same thing because I wouldn't have developed the way I'm developing now. And I think a lot of we always talk about why rich people are so unhappy. I think this might be one of the reasons too. You get rich too quick and you don't develop yourself right. And then, as I said, when you get to that point of being rich, it's hard to listen. Now you're 20 years old thinking you know a lot, but you really don't know shit. So now you're 40 and you still don't know shit because you wasn't listening for the past 20 years.
And what do a lot of older people say that's not in the best situation? Man, I should have listened when I was younger. Man, I should have listened to this person when I was younger. I was just hard-headed.
Even rich people say that.
Yeah.
So listen, motherfuckers.
Listen.
If you take anything from this conversation, listen. And the last thing I want to leave you guys with is there's a quote that says, what is concentrated, coherent, and connected to its past will be successful. I want to focus to the connected to its past, right? Because we're talking about focusing and concentrating on your forces, but we know we live in the social media era. And I was giving you a story a few days ago about a lot of times I go on social media for one specific thing to do with the show, maybe to send a DM or something, and then an hour later, I delete the app because I just binged on scrolling for a fucking hour, and I didn't even send the DM. You know why? I was distracted. As soon as I downloaded, I didn't know what I was on that app for. I'm sure a lot of you guys listening to this can relate with that.
Mm-hmm.
You're just distracted. And that is a big thing of the social media era. So I would say find some retreat within yourself. And as the quote said, get connected to the past. Everyone that knows me, Malcolm knows this, I hate social media. And it's because we are in a constant state of distraction. We are all distracted. As you say it all the time, bro. If you're an entrepreneur, you go on Instagram, you want to be a wholesaler one day, you want to have rentals the next day, you want to open a clothing store the next day. We're all distracted. We are all distracted. Get connected to the past and kind of live the way people did before social media. That is a challenge to you guys. Now, I promise you, just think about it. If you are able to take out the distractions of day-to-day life that everyone else is succumbing to, you will be successful. Get rid of distractions. Concentrate your freaking forces. Concentrate your mind on a single task. I'm saying this to you. I'm saying this to myself right now. Now I'm saying this to everyone listening to this. Get rid of distraction. Concentrate your forces and focus. And I promise you, everything is going to come. The principles are going to be embedded in you. The habits are going to be embedded in you. And the success is going to come. And then when you get that money, you're going to be able to enjoy it because you've paid attention. You know how to go for one thing and achieve it. And you're going to continue on your path of life.
Mm-hmm. You're going to keep on going. And one thing that stuck with me is the strategy towards this law.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
The different ways to strategize this law. And shout out to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, Nick is big on the Rothschilds. Nick has a lot of information about the Rothschilds. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Rothschilds. But I'm just going based off of what I read in the book about the Rothschilds. And they was in a tough situation throughout the whole time, right? Throughout their life. But so their father obviously put the mindset in them, this is how you get wealthy, and we're going to keep it in the family, and this is how you keep it in the family, right? He taught them those principles. But the sons wanted more. And that's what you want your kids. You know, your kids, Donald Trump did the same thing. His dad gave him a blueprint, and Donald Trump said, no, we need more, and he got more, right?
Yes.
So the Rothschilds, the father, the head guy, told him, gave him the principles, but the son was like, no, we need more. You know what risk they took? The Rothschilds spread it throughout Europe. The son started going to different places in Europe, right?
Italy, Germany.
Thank you. And started banking. Mm-hmm. And so that's already going against dad's principle. You guys spread it apart. We're supposed to be together, unified in one spot and keep these riches. But like the son wanted more, so he spread all his brothers out throughout Europe. They kept the same principle. This is our place. We're going to feed this place. We're going to get our money through this place, right? Mm-hmm. What's the next problem we're going to face now? We're spread apart. Marriage. So the next challenge they had to face was marriage. How to keep this money in the Rothschild's name and not it split ways and deal with all the madness that comes with
bringing outsiders into a family business.
Exactly, bring the outsiders in. The oldest son, believe, married one of his nieces, if I'm correct, right? Mm-hmm. And
then the next 17 marriages in the Rothschilds family was between uncle and niece or first and second cousins.
Thank you, bro. And Nick saying that, us now saying it is hard for us to do that. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone should do that.
Yeah, exactly. No one should really do that. Yeah, we don't recommend it. But that's how strong that principle was. And it was a strategy to keep the principle alive and really concentrate their forces and the principle that their father has told them, like, yo, this is our money. We're going to keep it in our name. And the best way to do it, to get more money, was to spread apart. And the best way to keep it in the family name was to marry within the family. Mm-hmm. And I like that strategy. And also Jay-Z, one of his songs, he said, your seed, marry my seed. That's how we keep Carter money in the family. Like, come on, shout out to Jay-Z.
He definitely started the Rothschilds. But what you just said was a fact. So I'm going to keep a quick background on the Rothschilds and why it's like that. So all throughout from the 10th century all the way up to maybe like the Holocaust, Jews were judged, they were forced to live in ghettos. A lot of people think Hitler created ghettos, but the Jews were living in ghettos since the 10th century because Europe was run by Roman Catholics and it was basically illegal to be Jewish. Because they were all fit in this ghetto and no one could come out, they formed this bond of culture. That's why when you go to Brooklyn, you see just Jewish communities, because this is something that is deeply embedded into them, into the Jewish culture. Community. We stick together. We don't need anybody else. Even though that may come across as ignorant sometimes, we're concentrating our forces. And as you can tell, that has worked out great for the Jewish community, right? So the father, he was in the ghetto and he taught his kids, like, listen, we're not bringing any outsiders in, because guess why? When you were living in those ghettos, you couldn't bring any outsiders in. And his sons, right? So after he passed away, his sons spread throughout Europe. And even though they kept those same principles, even though they were spread out, it led them to success. But one thing the book didn't talk about is it led to their downfall also. The Rothschilds are nowhere near as rich as they used to be. Their wealth is probably 1/100th of what it used to be, because they had stations in Italy, Germany, and during the period of time of the Holocaust, for example, let's use Germany for example, that branch in Germany was completely robbed. They were exiled and they lost all their money. And it kind of is the same principle that their father was telling them. Do not be all over the place, because you are susceptible to these things. And I think there was only one branch that survived after, like, around that Holocaust period, because all of them were destroyed. And that's just to show you, even though it worked out for them, it kind of still came back to bite them in the asses. Mm-hmm. So people, concentrate your forces. This is the lesson that Nick and Mal from the Nick and Mal Show are going to leave you guys with for the first edition of the 48 Laws of Power breakdown. Yes, sir. Concentrate your forces. Whatever you're doing in life, try to trim the fat. That's one thing my coach always used to say. Trim the fat. Trim the fat in your life. If you're focused on 5 things, find the 3 or 2 most important ones and really buckle down and really get to it. If your goal is to read 3 books a month, put the other 2 aside and read 1 book 3 times a month and really learn that motherfucker inside out. And I'm telling you, that intensity in whatever you do is going to be a key to success. And you can do a lot. Like me and Mal said, you could do a lot. Just make sure it's in a concentrated fashion. Make sure it's all playing off of itself. Mm-hmm. Like for us, we do a lot of different things. We do Book for Life. We do this 48 Laws breakdown. We do the podcast. They're all related. And they all help each other. We're getting practice for it in each one we do so. Ladies and gentlemen, concentrate your forces in. That's all I got to say, man.
Yeah, that's it, man. Concentrate your forces. Sorry.
Focus, fuck it.
Yeah, definitely check out the book 48 Laws of Power and see what law pertains to you. And
if you guys are really tuned in with this, put in the comments what law you would like us to cover next. Let's make it interactive a little bit. Yeah. Me and you choose a law, and maybe the listeners get to choose the next law after that, and we keep going.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that idea too. So just definitely let us know what you guys are thinking, and keep up with the book, man. It's a great book, and follow us. We're going to be dropping one of these every week for the entirety of the year of 2020.
Yep.
2021.
2021.
And
2020 dead.
And somehow we got 4 extra weeks. I don't get it. Bro, there are 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year. 4 times 12 is 48. How do we end up with 52 weeks?
And we never questioned that. We were taught that at a very young age and never questioned it. That's the funny part.
Yo, let's talk about that. Yo, we're going to have a whole episode. We're going to use those extra 6 weeks to break down why that is the way it is. You know what I mean? But yo, thank y'all for tuning in. It's Nick and Mal from the Nick and Mal Show. Bow.